talking weeds now with our Northwest Area Agronomist Specialist, Josh Bushong. And Josh, we're here at the Chickasha Wheat Field Day. So what are you talking about today?
Today I was asked to talk a little bit about weed management in wheat. So for the main focus of the talk today was mostly about the winter annual grasses, which kind of plague our wheat fields throughout western Oklahoma. You got your Italian ryegrass, annual ryegrass, your farrow rye, your bromes, your Japanese downy and cheat, rescue grass, wild oats, jointed goat grass. There's a plethora of them, but that typically gets our biggest issues in weed management in wheat, is controlling those winter annual grasses.
So we had you on a couple months ago talking about just how the weeds were kind of shaping up in the crop. You know, it's been really, really dry in a big portion of our wheat belt. So how does that impact, you know, weed growth?
It was a very interesting spring. Obviously the drought was a big influence across the whole wheat belt in Oklahoma. And some of that was delayed sprays because just like our wheat, our weeds weren't growing. So they didn't want to waste that spray. We'd get those little windows in there where it hit freezing and then warmed back up to, you know, 60, 80 degrees. And so we didn't have a lot of good windows in there to have good growing conditions, moisture and temperature on the weeds as well as the wheat. And so some of our producers had some later applications than ideal. So we had stressed wheat. We saw a little bit of crop injury, even from some of our older chemistries or SUs like Finesse. If we sprayed around a freezing event, we saw a little bit of crop injury because that wheat was already so stressed. And then that delay in application, some of our newer chemistries, like in our traded systems like coaxium, we kind of had to pull back the reins on those applications because it does have a growth requirement to it. We can't spray when the wheat's already joining or past because research documentary is done here at OSU has shown that there is crop response and effects of less grain. So hurting our grain yield if we're spraying too late. So some of those applications, we were coming out of spring, it seemed like the wheat was just dragging and dragging and dragging, and it seemed like it hit joining really quick. So that caught a lot of us off guard to get those timely herbicide applications.
So as you mentioned, with documentary's research, it's a lot of the weed is, you know, pretty much past that application. So I mean, I guess for management strategies going forward, I mean, is there really much, if anything, that producers can do?
One of the biggest concerns I have right now, especially on some of those fields that the producer was planning on harvesting that field for seed wheat, especially on his own farm, if he doesn't have clean wheat going into the bin, he's just going to have a bigger issue next year. Not only what weeds were already out there in the field, but the grains that he harvested, if it's infested with weeds, he's just going to compound that issue in future years. And I know with the drought this year, seed wheat's going to be pretty tight this fall. And so some guys are trying to be really selective on which fields they're going to take to seed wheat.
Alrighty, thanks Josh. Josh Bushong, Northwest Area Agronomist here at Oklahoma State University.